Hey everyone, it's Coach Dave March here, and here for another episode of the Growth Mindset Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, David March, author of the book Vision in Action, as we continually bring on new guests and new leaders that are bringing their visions to action every day. Today we have a special guest, Isabelle. Isabelle is the CEO of Residential Assisted Living Academy, and she is here to spread her insights and grow our minds together. And Isabelle, introduce yourself to the good people.
Yes, thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here. And, I think if you're going to be a leader of anything, listening to a show like this is going to help you because you got to have the right mindset if you're going to be in charge of other people. So I love it. Thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah. And so, with you being in real estate and everything, I am curious. Let's start this off with what are the trends that you're seeing in real estate right now? I mean, I know that in terms of commercial landscape, things are going remotely, and but that's changing things up. But what's your perspective? What's your opinion on it?
For us, we are really only in one niche category, which is residential assisted living. So we show people how to invest in residential homes that are being used for senior housing. So not like the big commercial facilities we've all driven by, right? No one wants to end up in one of those with long hallways and impersonal staff. We're kind of the antithesis, right? We're the Airbnb to the hotel. We're a smaller residential home where 10 seniors can live there, still get the same 24/7 care and attention and love. But actually, the ratios are a whole lot better for the care for the seniors. So that's what I focus on. And because of the baby boomers coming into this market, it is the hottest and trendiest thing in real estate that I see for the next 20 plus years for sure.
Wow. Yeah, it's definitely something different. Definitely something different. I haven't heard of it before. It sounds interesting. Um,
Yeah.
and I always like bringing on interesting people and interesting ideas on here. To grow your mind to something different you haven't known before.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah, and so through your years of entrepreneurship and being a leader and managing teams and everything, what are some of the challenges that you found yourself going through, and what are some of the lessons that we can learn from those challenges?
Oh man, I think people is the hardest part of any business. It doesn't matter whether it's, real estate or whether it's running a store that, sells food. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, people is the hardest part. If business was paperwork, it would be easy, right? But people are just challenging. They come with personalities and backgrounds and biases, and depending on who they are and what they're looking for, that changes every day in all the different ways. So I think that's by far been the hardest thing, whether it comes to hiring the right people. I've made failures in onboarding people incorrectly, even firing people, where I'm like, dang, I really could have been better about that. And so it
Mm,
all comes down to learning and just trying to grow and be the best boss you can be 1% better every day because you're never going to be perfect. This is also your first time maybe doing this, or maybe it's not your first time, but going through it and learning those things along the way, all you can do is try your best and then keep improving. But I think people is the hardest part of any business.
yeah, no, people are fickle. People are not easy to deal with. I mean, we're people. We're not perfect. Um,
Yes.
and that could be a challenge. You know, I was thinking about, there was a quote that was coming to mind for me. It was like, um, "Hiring is guessing, and firing is knowing." Uh,
Oh, that
have,
is a
have
good
you
one. Yeah.
have you heard of that one? Yeah,
I have
that's
not, but that is
yeah.
true. And I think that's what most leaders are trying to get down to is getting the guesswork away from it, right? Using different tools when it comes to hiring, whether it's strategic interview questions or using things like DISC or predictive index, things of that nature,
Hmm.
the guesswork out so you feel like you know, but the reality
Hmm.
is you'll never know. Sometimes you just have to bring someone on and throw them into it to figure out what did you
Yeah.
actually want? You need, was it the right fit or not? And trial and error is really the best teacher of all at some points.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
It's like, we have our theories, we have the things that we've done, but I mean, change is constant, and
Yeah.
you might have an idea of what's going to happen, but we're all kind of figuring it out.
Yes, yes, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, it's important to say too, because I think that once you start thinking that, like, you know everything, then things start to go awry. Um,
Yeah.
for some reason I'm thinking right now. There's another quote. It's like, it's not the things that you know that get you in trouble. It's the things that you think you know, but just are not true.
That's a good one. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was from The Big Short. You ever see that movie, The
I
Big
have.
Short?
Yes.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
that quote makes sense for that movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really cool. And so you mean, as we talk about recruiting and developing teams and things like this, um, is there any kind of tricks to the trade that you've learned over the years on what to look for when you hire, anything like that?
There's two big things that I do. One is more logistical, and that is implementing the tool predictive index. Have you ever used that?
No, I haven't used the predictive index. No.
It's amazing. If you've never heard of it, you guys have to go check it out. It is incredible. But you have everyone who you're going to hire basically take a 2-question quiz. And it's similar to DISC, but it's different in the sense of it's showing you their extroversion or their uh introversion. Okay, that they're showing you how patient they are or how driving they are, how precise, how flexible they are, or on the fourth level, how dominant in their leadership versus collaborative in their leadership. And then it also
Hmm.
shows you how they react. Are they more logistical or emotional, subjective or objective? And it also shows you who they are naturally, their God given skills, who they feel they have to be at their job, and how they're coming off at their job. So it's
Mm.
so interesting because the data is like amazing, all from 2 questions. It gives you so much info. It's so accurate, it can be held up in a court of law. So I
Wow.
live and die by this. Like, I will not hire anyone unless they've taken the PI, the predictive index test, and they are an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, or 10 out of 10. Like, I'm not, if you're not the right fit, you're not going to be the right fit. You cannot put, a round peg into a square hole. It just won't work. So you fill out the test to say, basically, this is what I'm looking for in this job. And then when people take it, it pretty much tells you if they're a fit or not. And I love that tool. And that I live and die by. But I also think more on maybe an emotional or just theoretical side. Personally, in my business, because I run a few small businesses, I'm looking for people who are willing to put in the work. And what I mean by that is, like, when you're at a friend's party and the chips are getting low in the bowl, there's someone at the party who sees the chips are low and is like, "Oh, the chips are low." And they go tell the host, "Hey, the chips are low." Because they want the host to refill it. There's other people who will look around and find the bag of chips to refill and just do it. I'm looking for chip fillers in a small business. You need chip fillers. Like, if you're going to come tell me the problems and not do it yourself, that's not going to work. It might work in corporate where you have cogs in a system who, they have a flow of who they need to be going to and what things like that, how it's structured. But for us in small business world, no, 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 no. You need to be able to do stuff and have the initiative to go do it and not feel weird about it, not feel weird that you're in my house filling the chips. Like, I need you to do that. So I'm always looking for chip fillers. And there's fun ways that you can kind of test and see if somebody is that person. It's not always accurate because people are always going to be more well behaved and have the perfect answers in all their interviews and even those first 30 to 60 days. But it's pretty easy to tell who someone's personality is after a couple of weeks.
Wow. That is so interesting. I know a lot about personality types. I have not heard about the predictive index.
You got to go check it
Um,
out. You're going to be obsessed.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. From a kind of more of an abstract structural point of view, the it sounds similar to like Myers-Briggs, from a big picture kind of structured view. I mean, because you do
Yeah,
have the E and the I, the introvert, extrovert.
yeah,
You have like your thinking and feeling, kind
yeah,
of piece there. But the other aspects are not there.
yeah,
In Myers-Briggs, you have the J and the P, and then you have the E. I mean, the N and the S, and so those are not there. Just the two. The two are there. Um, Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to fill the chips next time I'm at a party. I'm going to fill the chips.
Ah, it's
uh,
just taking that initiative, like, it's not
yeah,
always needed in corporate jobs, but in small business, it is needed. You do need to be someone who takes action, who sees a problem and tries to solve it. And so it's a big deal. And I'm always looking for chip fillers.
totally, totally. Yeah, I mean, even like in my business, if I'm doing coaching, if I'm giving someone some assessment or more like some homework, I should say, more some homework. And okay, this is what you need to do to, get to the next level if you want to reach these goals.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and and then just to make like an analogy, easy analogy with like fitness, for example, you can have the people that like, okay, here's your homework, and they don't really do the workout regimen, um, like consistently every day for the week. They only work out for that like 1 or 2 days that you're with them.
Hmm.
They're not really the go-getters that are trying to, push the envelope and, do everything they can. They're just doing like, the I guess like the bare minimum to a
Right.
certain degree, right? Because it's like you hired me for these 2 sessions a week, so you're just gonna work out 2 days a week.
Yeah.
You know, but the people that really get farther are the people that are gonna do like the full week, for example, as an
Exactly.
analogy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, 100% agree with you. Yeah, you have to have a bias for action. That's what I say typically in that situation.
Yes.
Um, Very cool, very cool. All right, all right. So yeah, we're learning new things here. You know, topic I like to talk about a lot is psychological safety. I think it's pretty interesting. Have you ever heard this concept before?
Explain to me.
Yeah, so it has many different forms, different ways of looking at it. Um, I think that one of the ways that is really interesting is, if you're in let's say, in a corporate environment, and you don't want to like call someone out for
Mm,
doing something wrong, even though it's wrong, um, because of the person's maybe the leadership style or who they are, um, they might be quick with a remark. Maybe it's insulting, maybe it's intimidating, maybe it's something where it's a threat of some sort. And you don't speak up, you don't speak out because you feel that if you do, you might get fired.
yeah. Yeah.
So it doesn't really create a collaborative environment and kind of works to your to your personality. I'm kind of more on the collaborative side. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a thing because if your teammates are not looking to speak up because they're threatened or they feel fearful, and if you're doing something that they know is wrong, you're all going to go to the grave together. So
Right.
it's not very good. Um, what are your thoughts on this idea?
I mean, I think it's very real, and I think that it that shows weak or poor leadership if that is how, people who are working for the company feel. But it's very real. It's happening all of the time. in more ways than we know. And it's not always maybe that they feel they're going to be fired, but I think sometimes people just feel like, is everyone to think that that idea is dumb? Like there's a lot of imposter syndrome and people being fearful that, well, if I share it and it's not the right direction, I'm going to get looked at funny or whatever the case is. Or maybe they've shared ideas before that have never been taken into action. So they've been felt that they've been turned down so many times. They say, why would I share my good insight? They don't even take my ideas. There's so many ways that that can fall into place. And I think if any form of that is happening, it just shows really poor and weak leadership and something that definitely, the leader of that business needs to look into and say, how can I create a more collaborative space? And sometimes that looks like I've heard of companies where they force the visionary or CEO to literally sit silent during an entire day's meeting. Let the rest of the team speak, and the CEO can't say a peep, and let them come up with the solutions. Let them come up with the next quarter's ideas and see what happens. And half of my CEO friends will say that was the worst day ever. I hated it. I was like, "Ah," and wanted to scream out. And half my other CEO friends say that was so insightful because it showed me that my team actually knows so much more than I think that they do. They are incredible and their ideas are amazing. And actually, I got to kind of sit back and chill and really show that my vision that I cast came to light because these people get it and they're smart and I hired well, I hired right. So I think that that's a really cool exercise. If any, person who's a leader in their business feels that maybe they are doing this to their team members and they say, I don't want to be a bad leader. How do I stop this? Maybe try at your next, quarterly meeting, sit silent and tell them that you're going to say, I want to hear, and I'm not going to say a word, good, bad, or ugly. I'm not going to say anything and kind of see how it goes and flows. And you never know, that could show you a whole lot of things that maybe you're not seeing, you're overlooking, or that you've said no to in the past, but your whole team really actually thinks you should go that direction.
Love it. Love it. Wow. I love how I love your take on that. That was fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Well, I mean, we try to make these episodes short here, just a quick, insight or two. People can look at this, and you actually did share some great thoughts there. So I appreciate your ideas on this. And before we close, on the episode, I'd like to give you an opportunity to either, speak about a book that you recently read, or maybe a quote that you really liked. And of course, way to contact you, ways to find out more about your company and that sort of thing.
Yeah, what my favorite book this week, because it's a new book every week, right? But my favorite book this week is Ready, Fire, Aim. It is amazing for business owners, CEOs, founders who are hitting that, $1 million mark and they're looking to expand, they're looking to grow, and they're saying, how do I break through that? Anyone who's hit a plateau in business, check out this book, Ready, Fire, Aim. I love it. It's amazing. And how you can find me and learn more about the business. We're on all social media at RAL Academy. But since everyone listening is, really more in that business realm, you can go ahead and follow us at the Young Boss Podcast. We also have an amazing podcast that kind of talks about a lot of topics just like this, leadership and, growth and mindset and all that good stuff. So thanks so much for having me on. This was really fun. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. And so that's about it for us, ladies and gentlemen. We're signing off on the Growth Mindset Podcast. Thanks.